Guys, right now, social media is buzzing with a new unexpected narrative coming from Somali communities in Minneapolis. Across multiple platforms, some Somali voices are claiming the city as their promised land, asserting that they have a special cultural, historical, and even spiritual connection to the area. Now, this is happening at the same time as current deportation policies, place additional pressure on the community. What makes this particularly interesting is a shift in identity. For years, some Somalis in the US have distanced themselves from Black identity or even emphasized other aspects of heritage. Now, today, under threat of deportation, these same communities are publicly asserting a very strong sense of belonging to Minneapolis and claiming ownership of space they feel is under threat. In this video, we are exploring why this narrative emerges, what it reflects about identity under pressure, and the ways social media amplifies these conversations, all without taking sides.
A lot of Somalis don't know this, but the name Minnesota actually stems from two Somali words. One being Minan, which comes from the southern dialect of Somalia, which means home. And the second is Sota, which is like Sota, there she is. Home, there she is, Minnesota. So technically, we actually are the natives here.
Those who bless the Somalis will be blessed, and those who curse the Somalis will be cursed, according to Genesis 42. Minnesota was promised for the Somalis 4,000 years ago. This picture is clearly proof. These are the founding fathers of Minnesota. His name is Abdullah Muhammad Washington. You can't tell it. It's not edited. You can argue with what I say, what are these Somalis saying, but that's the truth. Minnesota belongs to the Somalis. It's a promised holy land for them. This picture you see right now, his name is Abdi Farah. He was welcomed by the natives. They ate dinner and everything together. They had something called a Minnesota Tea Party. Ninkii Trump maxaa dhahay Soomaalida ka wala isagiina waa laga wala inala. Wallahi I'm telling you right now, Soomaalida iyaga wada troll iyaga dad kaftanka u qaato wax kasto ay ka balaar iyaga ka balaariib. I'm telling you right now, Minnesota is a holy land for the Somalis. That's that. It was promised for them 3,000 years ago.
A lot of white nationalists are really upset about Somali immigration to Minnesota for some reason. But the thing is, Minnesota is the homeland of the Somali people, and it was promised to us 3,000 years ago. In fact, one of the founding documents of the state of Minnesota is literally codifying into law that Somali people have self-determination on that land. As it states very plainly in the basic law in Minnesota, the land of Minnesota is the historical homeland of the Somali people, in which the state of Minnesota was established. The state of Minnesota is the home of the Somali people, in which it fulfills its natural, cultural, religious, and historical right to self-determination. The right to exercise self-determination in the state of Minnesota is unique to the Somali people. The state views the development of Somali settlement as a national value and will act to encourage and promote its establishment and consolidation. So that's the end of the debate. The only people who have the right to self-determination in Minnesota are Somalis. Somalis have a cultural tie to the land. It was promised to us 3,000 years ago, and we have the right to go back to our homeland. If anybody wants to help me pay for Aliyah to my homeland, please help.
Yo, Minnesota was promised to us Somalis 3,000 years ago. And if you disagree, you're an anti-Kushite bigot and you need help immediately. Also, if you read Genesis 12:3, it says that those who bless Somalis will be blessed, and those who try to harm them will bring harm upon themselves. I didn't say that. Genesis 12:3. Just saying.
They're saying Minnesota was promised to us 2,000 years ago, that we have a right to exist because 2,000 years ago, that land belongs to us. They're saying, I'm Somali Khai. That's what they're saying.
The people of Minnesota look like me. You know why? Because this is our land. Minneapolis or Mogadishu. You see the similarities? Almost 3,000 years ago, this is our promised land.
Bro, every time I watch on TikTok, I keep seeing people talking about Somalis in Minnesota. I grew up in Minnesota, bro. I'm telling you, bro. Minnesota is the greatest state in all United States, all US, bro. Like, that's a fact. And I'm pretty sure it's not the white folks that live in Minnesota hating on us, bro. Those are not the ones, bro. I know the ones that are hating on us, bro. The ones that are hating on us are the ones that live in red states, bro. Tennessee, what is them called? Like, somewhere outside, maybe like, Missouri's, Alabama, these states, bro. The Minnesota, white folks in Minnesota, they're cool people, bro. But anyways, this is what I'm trying to say. If you want us to leave, bro, the country, bro, book our ticket, bro. All of us, we got a passport, bro. We all got a passport. So we need a vacation, bro. Help us out. I'm gonna talk to all Somalis, bro. If you wanna book all our tickets, bro, well, we're gonna go, bro. 100% we're gonna go. But at the end of the day, we're gonna come back, bro. This is our country, bro. The only people that can tell us to leave the country are Native Americans. Unless you're Native Americans, don't tell us shit.
Now, to understand this, we need to, take a look at context and motivation. For many Somali residents, Minneapolis is not just a city, it is a home. Families, businesses, mosques, and cultural networks have flourished over decades. Deportation pressures, like the ones we are seeing right now, create an immediate sense of vulnerability. What we see now is a shift in rhetoric. Somali voices present themselves as, long-standing members of Minneapolis with a stake in its future. They frame their presence as natural, even historically grounded, with some using spiritual and cultural references to emphasize belonging. This contrasts with either, presentations where some downplayed connection to blackness or broader racial identity. Social media amplifies this shift by claiming Minneapolis as a promised land. Somali creators are using digital platforms to assert security, visibility, and collective identity. Reactions vary. Some laugh, some critique, others engage seriously. But what's clear is that the community is negotiating identity, belonging, and even, threat in real time. This is a moment that shows how political pressure can reshape narratives around heritage and belonging, especially in highly visible online spaces. Now, let's dig deeper into why this moment is significant. Somali communities in Minneapolis are experiencing pressure from current deportation policies, and this is shaping both public rhetoric and self-perception. Rather than, quietly navigating risks, some Somali voices actively claim Minneapolis as their homeland, framing it as a city they belong to and have a right to inhabit. This shift is intriguing because it reflects a change in identity framing. Historically, some Somali immigrants have emphasized other elements of identity over blackness, sometimes distancing themselves from the broader African American experience. This distancing is not universal, but it has influenced how Somali communities positioned themselves socially. Now, facing the real possibility of displacement, Somali voices emphasize collective belonging, cultural roots, and historical claims, a pivot that is partly defensive, partly symbolic, and partly strategic. Social media is a key arena for this shift. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and X provide space to share stories, memes, and commentary that assert belonging. By presenting Minneapolis as a promised land, Somali creators amplify messages of security and collective presence. Even if delivered humorously or rhetorically, the effect is to solidify community identity under pressure. It's also important to note the reactions. Responses range from confusion to critique to outright mockery. Some observers interpret these claims as playful exaggeration, while others perceive them as serious assertions of cultural or spiritual entitlement. The diversity of responses highlight the complexity of identity politics, particularly when a community navigates both racial perception and legal vulnerability. At the heart of this moment is the experience of pressure and precarity. When communities feel threatened, narratives around space, belonging, and ownership often become more pronounced. Somali voices are asserting Minneapolis as their home, not just as a place of residence, but as a central part of community identity. This is a defensive assertion designed to reinforce stability and visibility in the face of deportation threats. The conversation also exposes how external perceptions shape internal identity narratives. Some critics focus on racial or cultural aspects of Somali identity, while Somali creators adjust their rhetoric to assert authority over their own story. By claiming the city, they are signaling we are part of this place and our presence is legitimate. Another layer involves the intersection of history and narrative. Somali voices use spiritual, cultural, and sometimes historical references, even when symbolic, to support the idea that Minneapolis belongs to the community in a meaningful way. It's not about literal historical claims. It's about asserting a right to belong in the presence, in the present. The tension becomes clearer when comparing past identity strategies to current ones. Whereas some earlier narratives emphasized assimilation or de-emphasized racial identity, the present rhetoric highlights collective ownership, visibility, and legitimacy, driven by the urgency created by deportation threats. Social and digital platforms amplify this urgency, allowing the community to collectively negotiate their identity in real time. From a neutral perspective, this is not about taking sides in the immigration debate. It's about observing how communities respond when they feel their presence is threatened. It's about understanding that identity is fluid and responsive to social and political pressures. It's about recognizing that assertions of belonging can emerge even in communities that previously presented themselves, differently, because pressure, in this case, deportation, reshapes public narratives. Finally, this moment shows, the power of storytelling and digital visibility. Now, Somali voices are controlling the narrative and the narrative around Minneapolis in ways that traditional political debates often overlook. By framing the city as their promised land, they are, communicating resilience, belonging, and cultural legitimacy. Social media magnifies this effect, allowing both supportive and critical audiences to witness, react, and participate in the conversation. In conclusion, the current Somali narrative in Minneapolis is a fascinating case study in identity, pressure, and community storytelling. It demonstrates how political threats can prompt rapid shifts in public self-presentation, how communities use social media to assert belonging, and how identity evolves when under pressure. Observing this moment gives insight into the complex dynamics of migration, race, and digital cultures in the United States. Well, guys, drop a comment. Let me know what are your thoughts. Also, remember to subscribe, like, and share as well. And until next time.